Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again. I'm going to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Breaking Bad discussion topic video. Viewer requested. Who would win in a death battle between Gus Fring and Jack Welker? Okay, so I think this is a good death battle matchup to discuss. The first thing we have to go through is that whether or not this would be like a one-on-one or, Gus and his guys versus Jack and his. Now, I mean, in the series itself, you're not going to be able to just face one of them alone. You're never probably going to be able to get Jack alone. You're never probably going to be able to get Gus alone. So with that being said, we have to kind of bring in, the other characters as a part of their group. Obviously, Jack has a bunch of men that are all pretty much trained killers. They all will put hits on people, will perform them, and he's got a pretty good size amount of guys. I think I want to say, from what we've seen, probably about 10 guys. I haven't counted exactly, but somewhere around there, let's say, right? Gus, on the other hand, he's got Mike, of course, who is head of his security. He's got a good amount of bodyguards, and he's got a big operation. So even though at the end of it all, Jack ends up coming up with a lot of money all at once, taking it from Walt, Gus, we assume, is somewhere around that kind of frame of money too. I think he might have actually even had more than what Walt ended up having at the end, when you consider all things. I don't think they ever specifically stated, but he had a lot of guys on his payroll. Like he had, all of Mike's men, because Mike had what, 9 guys, was it, or something like that? Mike himself, of course, who's a badass dude, and a lot more too. Like those are not just the only ones. He would have had others as well too that are in charge of different things, of course, with all of the operations that he had going. So, that begs to question, when you bring in both groups, who would have the better numbers, who would be more equipped? Well, I think that Jack's men probably would be more practiced, obviously, at this type of thing. But then, of course, with Gus's, you have Mike and all of his guys. That's really tough to say. Who would be tougher, who would win if it was to go down between the two groups. In terms of who's a better villain, I think, Jack makes a really good villain at the end of Breaking Bad, but I want to say that Gus is probably the bigger overall villain for the entire series when you look at the series as a whole. He's got a bigger operation set up. He's more well hidden than someone like Jack is, and we're led to believe that he's never been to prison. Never did go. Jack, we kind of think he's probably been to prison maybe a few times, type of thing, for some different things that he would have done over time and just gotten away with all of his hits that he's done, that now he's free, but he's got guys on the inside. We know that, of course. So we got to think at least at some point he would have been caught. It's really hard to say who's more badass too. I think it's a matter of preference, because Jack is a really good villain at the end with Todd, of course. But for some reason, I personally, it's kind of hard. I can't really describe it, but I think I have to go with Gus as being a more interesting and a better villain. Probably because he's hidden in plain sight better. He's got a lot bigger operation going, and it's going just fine until Walt strolls in and screws it all up. And I think overall he's a more interesting character and just a better villain than Jack, I'd have to say. So in terms of that, I would go with Gus. In terms of who would win, oh man, that's a tough one to say. I mean, Gus did take out the cartel too, so he's sneaky in that way. And he is the type of character that you would have to fear quite a bit. But he is lenient too. He's more lenient on Walt than Jack was at the end, as we saw. Really tough one to say. I kind of think it comes down to their guys. Who's got the better guys? Jack and Gus one-on-one. I don't know who would win that. I think that would be tough to say. Maybe Jack, but Gus has got such a much bigger operation going, and he's got Mike there to lead all of those guys. I think overall I would have to go with Gus, as long as it's not one-on-one. One-on-one, I'd go with Jack, I think, as to who would win. But in terms of, group, which is how it probably would go down if it was going to in Breaking Bad, I'd have to go with Gus. If Walt had hired Jack and his men to take down Gus, I do not think they would have taken up the offer. I don't think they would have been able to, and I think they would have been scared to, and I don't think they would have taken the task of doing it because it'd be so dangerous. They probably wouldn't be able to do it without at least getting a good amount of their guys dead, even if Gus didn't know a hit was on him and a hit was coming. Yeah, I think his security would have just been too tight. It was Walt who was the genius that was able to take him out. But aside from him, I don't think Jack and his men would have been able to do it. And if it's a versus matchup between Gus and his men and Jack and his, I got to go with Gus. Anyway, those are pretty much all I got to say about the comparison of the two as villains for Breaking Bad. I think Gus is a better villain, just by a bit, though. And I can definitely see if other people like Jack better. And in a who would win matchup, I got to go with Gus. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the matchup. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev, and I'm saying peace.